Prosecutor, hot, get set. To like and to subscribe, let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.
All right, everyone, great to see you. Early morning. I work late at night. It's rare that I get up in the morning, but I wanted to reach some folks around the world in different time zones. Maybe you at work, maybe you at home, maybe you on the phone. Great to see everyone this morning, and this is pretty big news. This is the new prosecutor right here. 44 years old, a criminal defense attorney, 25 years of defending criminals, and will now be brought in by the Norfolk County DA to try this. This is bizarre, and let me tell you why this is bizarre. Number one, this case has been going on for years. So there's historical knowledge that only the people who've been trying it will have, right? That's number one. Number two, this is going to cost you money. For this man to get ready to do this case, it's like him getting ready to do one of his other big cases, like representing Whitey Bulger, which he did. You're going to have to pay him a lot of money. So they will pay him the money. I know that there's a part of this that gives him a certain notoriety that may help him down the road if and when he gets a conviction in this case. But he was also very clear in his statements to not leave his criminal defense mindset behind, right? Some could consider this a very risky move by someone like this, that you have gone to the other side. Now, in all fairness, Alan Jackson, the reason he's such a good defense attorney is because he was such a good prosecutor for many years out in LA. That's why he can anticipate and understand what the other side is going to do. And that's why he's been very successful, because he wasn't just a prosecutor. He was one of the best prosecutors. So to bring in Hank Brennan from the criminal defense bar to the other side, okay, he thinks like a defense attorney, so he can anticipate certain things. I think, though, what it really does is it's going to give the case for prosecutors a new voice, like literally a new voice in the courtroom in front of the jury. Lally is Lally. Like, he is what he is. He's a career prosecutor. We need them. There's not a lot of attorneys that make that sacrifice and take a much, the amount of money you make is limited, usually by a statute. Like there's a ceiling. And in terms of being a lawyer, it's a pretty low ceiling for what you can make. Even if you're like the DA, the elected DA, it's still a ceiling on what you can make. So we need career prosecutors like Adam Lally to be there to handle day-to-day justice. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of kids out of law school doing it for 3 or 4 years, which a lot of people do, like me, and then leave because I went to law school. I'm going to be a lawyer. I don't want to. I want to optimize the amount of earning capacity I can have, so I can buy the house I want to buy, or take care of my kids if I start a family, things like that. Right? So there's not a lot of them but there are some. And so this is not to discredit Lally, but in a case like this, against someone like Alan Jackson and David Yannetti, who also was a prosecutor, okay? David Yannetti, also a prosecutor. He wasn't there. Like, this is a case where the voice of what you are arguing, like the literal voice, the personality, the mannerisms, the command of the courtroom, the command of the arguments can and does make a difference. Now, it doesn't override the facts. And if we take at its face what we believe this original jury came to in terms of a conclusion, right? Which was not guilty counts 1 and 3. The voice of Alan Jackson was able to take those jurors away from the red rum charge, away from her doing anything on purpose and saying, no, that's not what this was. But they were still, what was it, 10-2 maybe? Is that what we're hearing from some sources? I don't know. But in the middle charge, they still saw, not unanimously, but still saw some level of liability. But to bring that over the top, a stronger voice, maybe a little more passion, maybe questioning of witnesses that's a little bit tighter and clearer. Like, that's where it got lost in the sauce for Lally and the prosecution, was the questioning of witnesses. These questions would be like, da, 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 da. By the end of the question, you had no idea where you were. And those were his own witnesses. So in that sense, I could see this helping. But let's flip it over. The level of nuance and interest. See, when you live a trial, it is different than reading about, knowing about, or talking to your fellow team members about the trial. When you live it, you live it. For me, at Court TV, the trials where I was the correspondent and I was inside the courtroom every single day for every single moment, my understanding and being able to master reporting those cases is far superior to the cases where I was in the studio, either in New York or in Atlanta, as an anchor. I still watched the trial, talked about it every day. But when you live it and you're in it, it's a different experience. It absolutely is. And that's what's going to be missing for Hank Brennan. He's not going to have that. Now, the people who are going to be sitting next to him are there, so they can certainly help with that. But if he's going to be the leader and the voice and everything else, then okay, you got to look at this a little differently. What I want to do is I want to take a look at a statement that I found from the new attorney. In a statement, Brennan said, this is the new attorney, I have two core obligations. The first is to make certain that Karen Read receives a fair trial. Ms. Read will receive the dignity and fairness that every defendant deserves in our criminal justice system. Okay, every prosecutor should say that, but they don't. And this is him hedging, right? This is him that, to me, what I hear there is I hear his criminal defense voice. The second, Brennan said, so he's not abandoning who he is now, which is a criminal defense attorney, now appointed as a special prosecutor in this case, a special assistant DA in Norfolk County. He's not abandoning that mindset. He needs to do that for his own sake, for his own career, because sometimes some criminal defendants might have a problem with a defense attorney who's flipping on the other side, or they may really like it because they understand that he understands how the other side works. The second, Brennan said, is to ensure that the facts surrounding John O'Keefe's death are fully and fairly aired in the courtroom without outside influence. What does that mean? What outside? What are you talking about? Protesters influencing what's in the courtroom? That doesn't happen. I guarantee that I will work tirelessly with the trial team to prepare this case for trial in January of 2025. He's got to start today. Like, you're starting today. You have to. Like, I don't know if he's going to watch the trial, read the transcripts, but you need to know everything that happened in the first trial to prepare for the second trial. Otherwise, there is a disadvantage right out of the gate. Now, what again is tricky here, and Alan Jackson responded to all this and he said, yeah, okay, I guess it shows that he has no confidence in his own prosecutors who are on the payroll. Like, this is unusual. Like, things like this happen in cases where you have a very, number one, a conflict of interest. If there's a conflict of interest, yes, you bring him in. That's number one. Number two, if you have a very small office, like really small jurisdiction, and the rest of the work could not get done. Like, let's say this fell on the lap of a really small jurisdiction where maybe they have 2 attorneys in the office, in the DA's office. And there are jurisdictions like that around the country where the person who gets elected or appointed as the DA tries most of the cases because there may only be 1 or 2 people actually in the office. And in those cases, something like this could put everything else happening in that jurisdiction, aside for months and months and months. So that is another time I've seen this. But in Norfolk County, I mean, it's a nice sized office. Like, they've got this is very, very, very unusual. So if you're the Norfolk County DA, are you perhaps concerned about what happened at the last trial? The results, number one. Number two, just watching it in action. Number three, listening to the criticisms. Number four, don't forget the moment where Lally misled the jury. So you put all those pieces together. And that's why perhaps he's doing it. But he's got to dip into his budget. And so for the Norfolk County DA, and I'm not sure how they do in the Commonwealth if the DAs are elected or appointed. I think they're elected. I was in New Jersey and they were appointed by the governor, the local prosecutors, the head local prosecutors. So this is where we are. This is where we are. Got a new prosecutor in town. So how does the defense prepare for a new prosecutor? Well, you got to know Lally. You knew what Lally was heading into trial. You knew how to prepare for him if he was going to take the second case, because he's not going to really change much. This is going to be a complete change. The arguments will be maybe couched differently. The order of the witnesses, the number of witnesses, the questions that the witnesses are asked, the pacing of the case, everything changes. Remember, Lally, it was a slow pace with Lally. It was a slow churning. And it was a lot of it because of the way he would question witnesses and go through it. It's going to be sharper. My guess is it's going to be sharper. My guess is that this is going to be a sharper presentation. So the defense will have to react. They may get some flavor for how it's going to be if there is any pretrial litigation. Like right now, you've got the issue with the appellate court. Will that be resolved by January? Maybe, maybe not. And that's really the big issue in determining whether or not this is going to happen in January or gets pushed to March or something is the appellate issues from the jury issues from the first trial. So, hey, we're over 1,000. Nobody expected me this morning. I sort of hinted the other day that maybe on Thursday morning I would jump on a little early. So we had this news, so I jumped on. Don't forget, tomorrow's Friday. We're going to try to do a midday tangent podcast. So we've got that coming up. All right, let's see who's awake this morning. Coffee Cake. Is it possible the special prosecutor could review the evidence and advise not to go forward? And what about the appeal? Is he doing that as well? My guess is no on the appeal. There should be an appellate division. A prosecutor's office of that size generally has folks that handle the appeals, and that's what they do all day. These are the ones who know the law the best. And that's why you have in a prosecutor's office, if you have enough bodies, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 attorneys that are in the appellate section. Sometimes they show up during a trial, during some of the more complicated motion practice to make legal arguments in front of the judge because they know the case law. They know the case law inside out. That's their expertise. Their expertise isn't making arguments to a jury. Their expertise isn't questioning witnesses. Their expertise is knowing the law better than anyone else in the office. And generally, that's who handles the appeals. And you even saw with the defense team, they brought in a special appellate attorney. It's a specialty. It's a specialty. Criminal appellate work is a specialty. So in a lot of cases, not all, but a lot of cases, especially ones of this level of sophistication, you're going to bring in an appellate specialist to handle that. That's number one. Could he review the evidence and advise not to go forward? I doubt it. Oh, I doubt it. I think he'll take this as a challenge, number one. I've got to think he knew something about the case before he accepted the appointment, like enough to understand that, okay, I'm going to try this case. I think everyone up there kind of knew about this case. So I don't think this is a possibility. I think I'm trying to give you like the truth, not like theoretically. Like theoretically, yes, he could do that. So what I'm trying to give you is what I believe the absolute truth is. And the truth is, no, I don't think this would happen. He could have that discretion. He could look at it and say, this doesn't make sense. I don't believe in this evidence. I think there are major problems. I think there's something else that happened here. Now, if he takes his oath seriously, and he'll have to be sworn in as a special assistant DA, he'll do that analysis. But what I'm giving you is the truth of, is it possible that it would actually happen? No, I do not think it's possible that this case will not go forward. I do not think that is possible. But in theory, the way you proceed, yes, it is possible. You come in as a prosecutor, fresh eyes, fresh look. You're the one in charge of the case. It's your reputation. It's your ethical obligation you're putting on the line inside the courtroom. So yes, theoretically, and he may say those words as well at some point. And you heard him already say that. I mean, if you look at the quote, that's kind of what he's talking about here to a certain extent. Thank you, Coffee Cake. I have two core obligations. He's talking about ethical obligations and the obligation of being an assistant DA. Make certain Karen Read receives a fair trial. Now, fair trial, there has to be evidence against her. The dignity and fairness that every defendant deserves. Well, the dignity and fairness every defendant deserves is, do you have the evidence? Do you believe in the case? Do you believe you have enough to prove everything you are charging beyond any and all reasonable doubt? I would argue that based upon the dignity and fairness, that if the first jury said not guilty to 1 and 3, you would not proceed on counts 1 and 3, regardless of any ruling by any judge or any court. I personally believe, and I'm a prosecutor, I personally believe that if a jury comes back 12-0 but was confused about how to fill out a form because it was a split verdict, which is kind of unusual, and maybe wasn't explained 100% clearly to the jury, regardless of the case law, regardless of the rulings, as a prosecutor, I'd have a difficult time retrying that person on those charges. Just come back with the case with count 2. Let's see if he does that. Because that's a problem. Like a jury, if we believe this jury, the ones who've come forward, I've heard nothing from any juror to the contrary about the 12-0 on 1 and 3. If that was the case, do you honestly think in our criminal justice system, someone should be tried again under those circumstances? You think like confusion by the jury and how to fill out a verdict form when they haven't reached a complete verdict is a reason for those charges to not go away? I don't. I personally don't. I disagree with the case law. I disagree with the rulings. To me, because it's about the truth. And if the truth is the jury was 12-0, it is what it is. And the case law is concerned about slippery slope, et cetera. Fine. But as a prosecutor, you can override all of that. All right. The second is to ensure that the facts surrounding John O'Keefe's death are fully and fairly aired in the courtroom. Fully. So you don't fight to keep things out. You want as much information as possible in front of the jury. That's also the way I look at prosecuting. Is that the rules of evidence limit some evidence, like hearsay is a big one. And that's for good reason, because it's not being challenged, because it's an out-of-court statement. You've got to make the statements inside the courtroom so they can be challenged. But the rules of evidence also keep things out that sometimes I believe a jury would be more informed and have a better understanding of what happened if it came in. And a lot of times defense attorneys fight to keep things out, and sometimes prosecutors fight to keep things out. I think more is always better. I want jurors to know more. So let's see how fully he wants all the facts here and what he will fight to limit from the defense. And then without outside influence. Here's my personal view on outside influence. I've been in this game way too long. And I'm in a game that, more so than attorneys who are trying cases, I'm in the game of high-profile trials. Okay? That's the game I've been in for decades, longer than anyone else on Court TV. All we do is cover high-profile cases. Every trial we cover is high-profile, some much more so than others, like this one. But they're all high-profile. They all have gotten tons of coverage, etc. There are people having opinions. There's social media discussions. Sometimes people show up at the courthouse. Sometimes politicians are talking about it. There is just a lot of noise around our trials on Court TV. And my conclusion is when the jury is sworn in, they base their verdict on what's happening inside that courtroom. They absolutely do. They listen to the judge's instructions. They narc on each other. They admit things when there's influences. But what's amazing, when you speak to them afterwards, they always talk about the evidence, the witness, who I believed, who I didn't believe, etc., what I didn't hear, what I did hear. And these are all high-profile cases. You know, from Murdoch to Peterson to all of them. They're high profile. This is nothing unusual. So I don't buy into outside influence on cases. You know, and I want to clarify this, because now we're in the world of Me Too, right? So is there an outside, and it's not an outside influence like people outside trying to particularly influence this jury. What does happen outside that influences verdicts is the way society looks at things. Okay? And right now, in cases like with Diddy, Weinstein, etc., society has changed. So it's not like outside influence on the jury. It's members of society who have changed, who are now serving as jurors. And what we have right now going on is there are many more factions of our society, more so than I can remember. And it probably goes back to the 60s, okay, which would predate me. I'm not that old. It goes back to the 60s, where society and members and factions of society who end up being on juries are questioning the government. Don't take the government at their word. They want the proof. They want corroboration. There was a time where the government would just say things and people will lockstep believe it. That's not where we are right now. You know why. I know why. It's bigger than all of this. And I don't want to get into that. It's not the discussion I want to have, except to the fact that it has impacted now the way our juries are. And it won't be every juror, but there'll be a faction of a jury, just like there's a faction of society that has gotten much, much larger, that now questions the government, questions prosecutors, questions police. It's a combination of everything that's going on in society. So it's not an outside influence. It's the outside society coming in and serving on juries. So I'm not buying that. Now, I do guarantee I'm going to work tirelessly. That's a tough one to say, with the trial team to prepare this case for trial. So he's got a team. They went through the first trial. My guess is Lally will probably be there with him, helping him. Obviously, I would think. But he's got to start today. He's got to start today, right now, if you want to get ready for this one. Between the legal issues, what the witnesses said, understanding the defense, understanding all the problems, coming up with a strategy with Proctor. Maybe they don't call Proctor. I don't know. But this is where we are, folks. This is where we are in this case. Let's see who else is here on this early morning. Top of the morning to you. Michelle L. The Commonwealth better be more concerned about their investigators, experts, because Proctor, Paul aren't it. Adding a new prosecutor won't change that. Yes, but it may change the way they handle it. Maybe he comes in and says, you know what? Do we need Proctor? Do we need him? Do we need him for chain of custody? What do we need him for? Do we need to put him on a stand? Sometimes less is more. I mean, you could see a different strategy there. When One of the reasons the trial took so long is Lally put on like everybody, and a lot of it was redundant, and the questioning was redundant, and it brought the pace of this trial like slow drip, drip, drip. Is this prosecutor going to be sharp? Now, I'm a former prosecutor, but if I came in for this case, that's what I would do. I would streamline it. Get rid of the stuff that doesn't help me. If the defense wants to call Proctor, let them call Proctor. I'm not calling him. But there may be some logistical reasons you have to call him. But I have covered cases where the lead investigator did not testify because in those cases, the lead investigator just spoke to all the witnesses and kind of organized the investigation. But the information was coming from the witnesses. Now, what we do know about Proctor is he's there finding some evidence. So that's problematic. So thank you, Michelle L. All right.
Time to get happy. It's time to get funky. It's time for us to smile. 'Cause here comes Max Spunky.
All right.
It's time to get happy.
Mick Spunky is with us. Good morning, Gen X, Frankie Figs, and y'all chatters. Good morning, Mick Spunky, bringing a smile to everyone's face on this early morning. Mick Spunky is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Great to see you on this early morning, Mick Spunk. And a big thanks, Frankie Figs and Gen X, handling things in the chat room where sometimes in this story, things can get a little dicey. You know what's interesting about my coverage of this story is I have been attacked by both sides, written off by both sides many times. So what does that tell me? I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job. All right. Hey, Candy with a hello, McSpunky from Candy. All right. Let's see who else is here on this early morning on a Thursday. So as you know, my live stream schedule is very sporadic. I'm going to try to be a little more consistent if possible. So I'm working on it. We've got Ashley Bouchard. Hi, I'm here. This case is super local to me, and everyone in the state is beep. They use tax money to hire this guy. Oh, yeah. We know all about Massachusetts and taxes. You know, when they feel like, you know, their taxes are being misused or whatever, they get a little angry in Massachusetts. So I can understand that. Could be political suicide for the DA. Did he just have an election? Was he just reelected? So there's time between this and his next election, which might be why he did this. You know what? How about putting yourself on the line? And I know running an office is a full-time job in a district that's this large. But maybe Morrissey should try the case himself. You know, could have just stepped in there and said, you know what, I'm going to do this one myself. The problem is, I know there's a lot of other logistical stuff that's going on that you can't do that in an office of that size. All right. Justin Lorello. Vinny, you want to know what the government did in the 60s? Look up what Mass did to my uncle Enrico Temelio. Then 40 years later, when they get caught, they go, yeah, but it was for the greater good. Well, if it was anything like what happened in Norfolk County, like Saco and Vanzetti, Justin, my thoughts are with you. But there is a a change. There is a skepticism that exists now, and it wasn't just because of Turtle Boy and the Turtle Riders. Like for this case, yes, absolutely. But I'm saying this is happening across the board. This questioning of government, and it's has to do with two things happening from two different ends. So this is not a political statement. This is not a political show, but I'm just talking about the political influence on our jury pool and how it's now manifesting itself inside of courtrooms. From the left, you had BLM attacking law enforcement, and you had folks from the left attacking law enforcement. Then from the right, because of the prosecution of a former president, you have folks on the right talking about the weaponization and the distrust of the government. So you have factions from both sides now questioning law enforcement, questioning the government. And then put on top of it that they just haven't come clean about the UFOs. But that's, again, for another time. There is a lack of trust that has not been to this level since the 60s, which inevitably will seep into the jury pool, will seep into the jury box, will seep into the jury room, and will seep into the verdicts of criminal trials, because criminal trials are the government versus a member of the public. Government versus a member of the public. So that's what's happening. That's my analysis. Not a political statement. In this case, obviously, the drumbeat by Turtle Boy from the beginning created the awareness, created the investment, and created what happened outside this courthouse. There is zero doubt. And then it spun off and took on a life of its own that was bigger and larger than we could ever imagine. Then it was a few weeks ago where I had the standout day where there were people in South Carolina and states around the country protesting for this professor from Massachusetts. In a case, when you look at the allegations, it's a very personal case. When you look at the allegations by the prosecution, but you look at the allegations by the defense, it gets much larger. It gets into the questioning of our government. All right, here's a DRBR 2020. Oh, I love that picture. This is now a vengeful crusade for Morrissey against Karen at any cost. So he gets the guy who defended a serial murderer to fight Karen. You can't make up stuff like this only in Massachusetts. And that's going to be another story, how this plays in Massachusetts. How this plays. And that becomes part of the selection of the next jury, by the way. Because some of these jurors, I mean, by this point, everyone's heard of the case. I want to point something else out before it escapes my mind. I've been at Court TV for years. There have been other retrials. And inevitably, the retrial is never as big as the original. Phil Spector. I'm trying to think of some of the retrials we had, but we've had a series of hung juries, and then cases have been retried. We've had cases where someone's convicted and then it's overturned, and then it's retried. Inevitably, the retrial is like wah wah. It's never as big as the original. This case, I think, is going to break that mold. There are people, and like there was the 2020 story the other day, where people are now, they sort of had some awareness of it as the trial's going on. I'm talking about deep into pop culture, right? like deep. Like there's a depth of these stories, these cases, these trials, right? There's the true crime, the courties, as we call them at Court TV, who are like always there, and then they get really passionate about these big cases. I should be going this way. Then it can cross over into into the general population of people who are mildly interested by this stuff, and they'll jump in for the big ones, right? Then you're at this level. Then you get to the next level, which is like Murdoch, which is like Johnny Depp, which is like it crosses over into mainstream pop culture. And that's what's happening with this now. Since the verdict, since all the controversy after the verdict. And now you're going to see 2020 do stories. I'm sure Dateline is going to do stories. Court TV obviously has been on it from the beginning. We will continue to do stories. The internet is running wild with it. I think you'll have people who will, and I don't know what his numbers are, but I've got to think that even since the trial, Turtle Boy's numbers go up, 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 up. And anyone who's touching this case, there are people who are newly discovering it, which I think will create a fevered pitch for the retrial. And now that you have a new prosecutor, it will be something different. And it'll be much less predictable than it would have been if Lally stayed as the voice of the prosecution. So you put all those factors together. And usually for the retrials, I'm like lukewarm on them. I'm like, yeah, we should cover it. But I always tell folks at Court TV, don't get your hopes up. Like, it's not going to be like it was first time around. This one, I think, will be bigger. I really do. I really do think it'll be bigger. But we'll see. We'll see. You never know. I've been wrong many, many times in this business, but I just get that vibe because of the level of interest and the people. Like in my personal life, it's like who reaches out to me to talk about cases. Like certain people talk to me about all the cases that are in my circle of friends, acquaintances, family, etc. But then there are some cases where people who never talk about the stuff start asking me about it because they're hearing about it and they want to know. They want to know. This is one of those cases. Murdoch was one of those cases. Johnny Depp was one of those cases. So I think this retrial will be there. Stephanie King must be from there. No taxation without representation. All right, folks, we are streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on X. I'm looking for some folks on X. Who's on X this morning? No, I shouldn't have said it like that, but you know what I mean. Okay. Mm-hmm. Susan Q, thank you, Vinny, for discussing this right away. You are welcome. We're on it. We're on it. Folks, please like the stream. Please like the stream. No one expected Vinny live at 9:45 in the morning, and it happened. Usually I'm just kind of like, like this, because my show is live every night from 8 to 10 on Court TV. So I sleep until I wake up. Look at this. Jolie Dubinsky. Vinny, you and I are busy. You're a busy guy. Work, work, work. Me too. I share a birthday with you. Exact same age. If that's true, why do you look so much younger, Jolie? Why is that? Thank you. And here's the skepticism I was talking about. I smell BS. We don't trust our government for the treason we have all witnessed. I'm telling you, it's real. And for prosecutors, they're starting to feel it around the country. They're starting to feel it. The Diddy case, that one you look at, and that has two things happening. You've got Me Too, which has changed the way society looks at cases, but then questioning the government. So there you could have people from both factions. So while that case seems very strong, that one's not necessarily a slam dunk. Mama D with a great legal point. Couldn't Lally be called as a witness with the inverted video? Therefore, he can't be the prosecutor anymore. Maybe not during the trial, but pretrial issues or current investigations. That issue was dealt with at the trial. I don't know how the inverted video becomes an issue in the second case, because the prosecutor, when they present the video, will present it the right way. On cross-examination, you say, yeah, but last time you did this. The power of the inverted video was in front of that first jury, because that's one of those trial moments that just happened, and it was pounced and seized upon by the defense and became part of their narrative and their story about what was happening here. That moment will be lost now. That moment will be lost. You won't have that impact. I don't even know if it gets brought up on cross-examination, like the relevance of what happened in the last trial. I don't see the relevance of it. It's like, well, yeah, but last time they did. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like, yeah, last time they did this. There has to be some basis. You have to be doing something in front of this jury. And I don't think the judge is going to allow you go down an avenue of saying that Lally was in on it and make him part of this wide conspiracy. I don't think that's going to be permitted. Obviously, they would object to it because prosecutors would not call him. The defense, would they subpoena Lally to do that in front of the jury? I'm not sure. But it's a great point, Mama D, because generally speaking, if a lawyer becomes a witness in a case, then they're a witness in the case, which is why when you as a prosecutor are preparing a case and you're talking to witnesses, you never talk to a witness by yourself. Because if they say something, an inconsistent statement, or say something different on the witness stand than they say in that interview, the only way you can cross-examine them is with another witness who heard it, which is why you always have an investigator with you when you speak to witnesses so you don't become a witness. Mama D must be a lawyer. All right. All right. Patty's got a big one. Here we go. Let's see. The pendulum always swings too far the other way when an injustice is exposed. I've always thought that Massachusetts police corruption and the KarenRead case are two separate issues. Both can be guilty. The pendulum needs to be balanced, swinging both ways. And that's human nature. There's always an overcorrection. Always an overcorrection. Great point, Patty. And I see this in like real life too. Like if you work somewhere, right? And I don't know, there's a project that's done at work and the boss says, well, you didn't talk about this. You didn't talk about X. We need to talk about X. Well, the next project, there's going to be a whole lot of X in it. As a matter of fact, there'll probably be too much X in it, if you know what I mean. I keep talking about X. Why am I doing that? All right. Let's see who else is here. Carlos Martinez from Kissimmee. Great to see you, Carlos. I remember the first time I saw the name of that town and I was very confused. Is it Kissimmee? But it's Kissimmee. After working in Orlando. Great to see you, Carlos. Let's see. Mountain Mama, West Virginia is watching. Carol, great to see you. Great to see you. I went to West Virginia. We had a family reunion for Thanksgiving because half the clan was like 6-7 hours north. The other half was 6-7 hours south. So we said, let's meet in the middle. And we went to West Virginia. Got to see some snow. It was cold. Nice people, though. All right. I am not too far behind here. Gen X reminding everyone, don't forget to follow on Facebook. Got the Facebook link. We're streaming live on Facebook. Susan Morrow, yes, watching Court TV. Carly Gregg trial also. Oh, what a case, Carly Gregg. We'll be talking about that tonight on my show. Closing arguments. What a case. What a case. We've rarely seen something like this. Great to see you, Susan. And that's the other thing going on this time of day, for the Court TV folks, is that we have a great live trial happening. So generally I don't jump on during the day because of that. Let's see who else is here. Caro, no chain of custody. Vinny must be thrown out. Right. If he's in on the chain of custody, he has to testify because the defense, there are cases where the defense will stipulate to chain of custody to speed up the trials, everything else. This is not one of those cases. There will be no stipulating to chain of custody. So everyone who touches the evidence, takes possession of the evidence, has to testify for that evidence to be entered in a case. So that may compel Proctor to be a part of the case. Canoni's still the judge. The judge is the judge. The judge has not left the building. The judge has not left the building. I'll tell you what I would do. If I was the defense, I'd get out of that small courtroom. Get out of that small courtroom. And say, you know what, Your Honor? Let's go back to the big one. Let's go back to the big one. All right, I've got to confront Chris, who's angry with me. Stop with your middle-of-the-road act. You've been covering for the Alberts and McCabe's and the Coffendaffers far too long. Shame on you. Vinny thought Jersey guys were sharper. See, I told you, I get it from both sides. I get it from both sides. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate your passion. I'm trying to figure out your picture. Are you a cyclist? That's my guess. It's probably cycling, or maybe it could be mountain climbing or something. I get it, Chris. Because both sides are dug in. So when I say anything that seems to contradict what either side truly, passionately believes, they attack. And that wasn't an attack by Chris, just pointing something out. That's fair. That's fair. That's what we want. Freedom of speech. Vinny Live, freedom of speech. But I get it from both. Let's see. There's some funny comments. Frankie Figs, thank you for the super chat, Caro. Frankie Figs helping us out with Gen X in our chat room this morning. All right, Kaylee Chase with a great question. Can they bring up the first trial and issues that happened in it? Issues, what happens is what was testified to in the first trial is fair game for cross-examination. So if witnesses in the next trial say something different, and it's going to happen, it will happen. Witnesses will never be %100% consistent. They're always going to remember something differently, say something differently, or have a completely different story. We've seen that as well. So in those scenarios, what you testified to in the first trial, if it's different from what you say in the second trial, you will be confronted with it. And if you're a prosecution witness, the defense will use that to undermine your credibility and say, ladies and gentlemen, how can you believe this person? Last time they say this, now they're saying this. What's the truth? I don't know. You don't know. They don't know. Boom. Or they are purposely changing their testimony to mislead you, ladies and gentlemen. That's what they'll say. Prosecution can do the same thing with defense witnesses, those experts and others. So we'll see how that lands. That's the other thing I think that may change in the second case. You can bring in a new expert. You don't have to rely upon the Massachusetts State Police expert who was a bit of a lightweight when it came to accident reconstruction. So they can take all the information, bring in a new expert, have that expert analyze it, write up a report, and have them testify. So I think that's going to be a difference too. I think you're going to see them spend money, more tax money on a new outside expert. That's my prediction. Because the guy from the state police, like, he was doing his job, but what happened here was beyond his expertise. You need an engineer. All right. Frankie Figs thought she was shadow banned. That's funny. That's funny. X evidence of MVA nor hit by MV X chain of custody. Bingo. Bingo. Thank you, Caro. We've got Eliwania, who's watching today from somewhere in the world, worldwide, Vinny Live. Look who's here, folks, our friend Nick Rocco. This means the state admits they are incapable of prosecuting people. No, it's a problem. It's a problem. There's no way to smooth it over. Like, this is what you get elected to do, and this is what the people in your office get paid to do, and now you've got to pay someone from outside the office, because I don't think he's doing it for free. If he's doing it for free, that's one thing. But I don't think he's doing it for free. Nick Rocco in the house. Sue Forte. Good morning, Sue. Oh, man. There's some funny ones here. And there's like some things being said. I don't know if I shouldn't put them up or not. I don't know if they're, there's a double meaning for some of it. Nick, with some more information. The new prosecutor worked with Kevin Reddington in the Whitey Bulger case. Whitey Bulger. Kevin Reddington is Jen McCabe's lawyer. Kevin Reddington, by the way, one of the great criminal defense attorneys in Massachusetts. I covered one of his trials. It was a loser of a case. I mean, an absolute loser of a case. But by the end of his closing argument, like, he had me thinking for just a second, like, oh, maybe this person isn't guilty. He's really good. He's a super good lawyer. Whitey Bulger. Whitey Bulger. Jen X saying hello to Nick. YT3, sorry, Diddy is a slam dunk. Yeah, it seemingly is. But I never here. Well, let me talk first about that. And I probably used the term, and I shouldn't have used it, because that's a really bad term. I think calling something, oh, this is a slam dunk, because slam dunks are not easy. You either have to be really tall or be able to jump really high to slam dunk, right? I've played basketball my whole life. I can't slam dunk. So for me, a slam dunk is extremely difficult, basically impossible at this point. In the younger days, almost a tennis ball, but never close with a basketball. So the term that a slam dunk means it's something that's easy, to me, is a complete misnomer. The better term, I believe, is it's a layup. A layup is easy. An uncontested layup, I can make hundreds of those in a row if I had to. Righty, a righty layup. Lefty, not so much. But I'm with you. It's strong. It's a strong case. Diddy's strong. But you could have on that jury folks who don't trust the government. And in this case, the government's going to be put on trial. It's a federal case. They refer to themselves as the government in court. Like in this case, the Reed case, the prosecutor said the Commonwealth. But in federal court, prosecutors, the U.S. attorneys and assistant U.S. attorneys, refer to themselves as the government, which I think nowadays it's not going to help you. So you could have some of that skepticism of the government that could seep in there. And, Diddy's going to fight it, and he's going to try to paint the picture that all these accusers have their hands out looking for money and sued him civilly or settled civil suits with him civilly. So I think that's where we are there. But yeah, I agree. It's a strong case. Rhino Girl, just because you rock. Support and appreciation from Dubai this morning. Appreciate your take on this case and others. By the way, let's all stretch this morning. I actually have to stretch that left shoulder because when I finish this live stream, I'm putting on my shorts, my shirt. I'm heading to the baseball field for a little baseball practice, getting ready for my all-star game on Saturday. So I'm going to need to stretch, especially this left shoulder. Just had the getting ready for an MRI on it. There's definitely something wrong with it. But thank you, Rhino Girl. Ashley, great Massachusetts accent. Thank you. During the trial, I was catching it. And when I went up there, I really catch it. When I have Nick Rocco on my show, I absolutely catch it. Or Joseph Krowski. But then as I pull back and start covering cases from around the country, I lose it a little bit. But I always say one of my favorite accents. Love it. I think the two best places for trials are the South and Massachusetts. My two favorite places to watch trials because of the rich history inside courtrooms in those two places, and the localism. Like that was the beauty of Murdoch. We were down south. In other cases I've covered down south. Like Southern justice is different, just like justice is different in Massachusetts, and both communities very passionate about justice and court cases. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. I'm missing one of the. All right. Vinny, fix your sweatshirt string is bothering me. Yeah, it was probably up there. So here it is. It's down. Thank you. All right. The nice thing about the early morning here is I'm not up against a meeting. Beautiful messy ball. You really think the bigger courtroom is a good idea when the entire jury cannot see the witnesses? I think a change of venue is necessary. Also, Whitey Bulger was a subject of MK Ultra. IYKYK. That stands for something. Beautiful, messy ball always speaks in mysterious ways, but it's appreciated. I'm not buying they can't see the witnesses. I've covered trials there, and like seeing the witness, I'm picturing it because I was in that courtroom for 3 months years ago. And it's just maybe because of the extra alternate jurors that they brought in for this case, it made some seats so you couldn't see them. But it seems there's a fix for that. I just think putting a trial of this magnitude in a small courtroom is just a huge mistake. It's a huge mistake, I think, on both sides and by the judge. It reduces and restricts public access, which to me is shocking. The restriction of public access. But there are cameras. We get it. The cameras are good. Massachusetts is great that way in having that level of transparency. But the folks who come down to the courthouse should be able to go in a courtroom and watch a trial. They should be. And there was zero space for them in this one. Change of venue. Is the defense going to ask for a change of venue? I don't think so. I don't know if the prosecution can ask for one. So, okay. There was a good question here. Here it is. If you know, you know, says Lauren Abo, referring to what we just saw on Beautiful Messy Ball. If you know, you know. Someone's going to have to explain it to me after class. Okay. How do I block closed-minded Vinny? Already blocked and unfollowed. You can't stop me, Elena. You cannot stop me. You will not stop me. You must watch. I'm not sure. I don't know what I'm closed-minded about. Like I said, the attacks come from both sides. So thank you, Elena, for watching and participating in the chat. But you can't stop me. Okay, Kayla has you the LYKYK. If you know, you know. Thank you. And by the way, like that's an I. I could have thought that was an L. Right? So I didn't even know if that was an I or an L. In the close-minded. Parker's Planet. You're good, Vinny. Don't stop. I won't stop. But I'm going to have to stop at some point. Because I got to get ready for baseball practice, by the way. I don't know if those of you who were here in the beginning, if you heard the theme song, but there is a new theme song for Vinny Live. Now, I think this is the final one. I don't think I'm going to have a competition because I really like this one. It has the energy, it has the vibe to get me going. Oh, listen to this from Great Dane. Thank you, Parkers. Great Dane Mom. Speaking of change of venue, I'm going to the pretrial hearings for the Idaho student accused. That ought to be interesting. Absolutely. Everything down. They've moved everything to Boise. New judge. The judge got rid of the case. The judge just, I want no part of this. Boise, you got it. My understanding is, though, his attorneys, I think, are from Moscow. So that's like 6 hours away. That's going to be interesting. I think prosecutors, everyone's going to have to travel 6 hours for all the pretrial and everything else. You see, this is why this is a strange change of venue. Most of the change of venues happen just for the trial. So it works this way. Pretrial hearings, pretrial motions, all of that, local jurisdiction, local court. Then when it's time for the trial, We all get up, judge included, and we go to the new jurisdiction and we just use their facilities and we use their jury pool. And we may use some of their support staff if we don't bring them. That's how I've seen it done in most of the trials through the years on Court TV. This case is different. They basically took the case and they said, and Latah County said, whoop, Ada County, hey, Boise, you take it, you handle it. You get the judge, you get the jury, you do the pretrial motions. Here, take the defendant. He's going to hang out there for the next year and a half. So all of that, they transferred everything. It's a different way to do it. Maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. I don't know, but it's just different. So the real burden now is on the attorneys trying the case. They're the ones who are nowhere near the judge, nowhere near the courtroom. So are they going to Zoom all the pretrial? A case like this, you're going to be Zooming everything? To me, that's ridiculous, but maybe that's what they're going to do. Or every time there's a hearing and then you have to travel for a day. I don't know what the flights are like from Moscow to Boise. Maybe you could jump on a little puddle jumper. I don't know. But to me, that's the burden in the case. The burden really on the defense in visiting and being with the defendant and prosecutors when they have to get to the courtroom, all the witnesses. Yeah, it's going to be more expensive, but I never like putting price tags on justice. I think it's silly. When it comes to what the system has to pay to try a case of that magnitude. But to me, it was the judge getting rid of it and unburdening Latah County and putting that burden on Ada County. And the costs there are different than the costs that we're talking about in KarenRead. KarenRead is the prosecutor taking on an unnecessary cost. Bringing in a new lawyer, like you have an office full of lawyers. Like, I don't get that. But this is a ruling by the judge, and the Supreme Court assigned it to Ada County. So we'll see how that goes. Be interested to hear how this all evolves if the new judge sees things differently. Hopefully the new judge is a little more open to transparency. All right, beautiful messy ball. MK Ultra was yes, mind control program. Yeah, I've vaguely heard of it, but I've never done the deep dive. Maybe I will do the deep dive. Dr. Bullbutter. You just have to laugh. Judge is too indecisive. Yeah. The one attribute that every judge really needs is to be decisive. In other words, make decisions. And Judge was not great with that. And Judge was not as transparent as a judge should be in a case that with that much public interest and public investment. Sonia, hey, Vinny, great to catch you live tonight, watching from down under in Australia. Thank you so much. See, that's the thing. One of the reasons I did do this early for me morning live stream was because I know it hits people wherever they are at different times of day. So I'm going to wrap things up here, get ready for baseball practice. I'll play for you for those of you who haven't heard it, we have many more people watching now than were watching in the beginning. So I'll play for you the new theme song. In the comments, you can put your critiques of the theme song, much like they used to do on American Bandstand. Was it American Bandstand or was it Soul Train, where they would rate the song? I think it was Bandstand. I think it was Bandstand where they rate the new music each week. So take a listen to the new theme song. Don't forget, tonight, 8 o'clock, closing arguments with Vinnie Politan. 9 o'clock tonight, Vinnie Politan investigates 2 hours, unscripted, live, true crime on Court TV. I will see you there. As I leave you, I'll leave you with the music, and feel free to critique the music, positively or negatively, right? Freedom of speech on Vinny Live. Have a great day. I'll see you at 8 o'clock. Don't forget to hug the kids.
Get ready, get set, let's go. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. It's true crime, streaming live, worldwide. It's Vinny Live. Get ready. So post inside the chat. Get ready for the prosecutor hat. Get set. To like and to subscribe, let's go. It's time for Vinny Live.